You said during a TV interview just last month that you are absolutely sure that Donald Trump is currently having an affair while president behind the back of the First Lady. And I repeat, you said you were absolutely sure. Last week, however, you backflipped and said, I quote, "I do not know if the president is having an affair." Do you owe the president and the First Lady an apology, Mr. Wolff?
I can't hear you.
Just last month, you said you were absolutely sure that the president was having an affair, and now you say that he is not.
I'm not getting anything.
You're not hearing me, Mr. Wolff?
I'm not getting anything.
We were hearing each other well just before. You're not hearing me, Mr. Wolff?
Do you hear? I'm not.
Mr. Wolff was hearing me before, but he's not hearing me anymore. So it looks like the interview may be over. Michael Wolff's book, Fire and Fury, Inside the Trump White House, is out now, and he is about to take off on a speaking tour. So I think we will leave it there.
Gee, that was an unfortunate question to miss, wasn't it?
Gold.
I think he might have heard it.
I think he did.
He was going to say
He
no.
absolutely did. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Let's Talk Headline series. I'm your host, Jay, and this is The Objective. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to the 43rd episode of the Let's Talk Headline series. It's a beautiful day, a beautiful time to be alive, folks. I just want to thank you for your continued support. We have a few things to cover in today's episode, but before we even get into that, I want to direct your attention to www.themaven.net/political storm. On that website, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Political Storm is determined to bring discussion back to politics. It's a place where, regardless of what your views are, there's a place for you. There's content for you, and they allow and facilitate conversation between these different trains of thought and ideology. So definitely check out Political Storm, www.themaven.net/political storm. You can also check out some of my articles. My most recent article was on the CNN town hall on gun control recently in light of the Broward County shooting that left 17 dead. I believe I named it 3 takeaways I got from the CNN town hall on gun control. It was probably a little shorter than that. But be sure to give these guys a follow, even on Instagram at Political Storm. If you guys aren't following me on Instagram, my Instagram handle is at The Objective Podcast. I like to post current content, news content, and I don't usually just post a picture or videos and then leave it at that. I usually have a little blurb where I give my 2 cents, my humble opinion. And again, guys, for those of you who follow and continue to support, I really do appreciate, and I see you, and I really do, like I said, appreciate your consistent and constant support. The quote of the day, folks, is actually from the video in the first segment that we played. It inspired me to come up with this quote. I'm probably not the first person to say it or the first person to realize it, but the quote is, "Time is the greatest lie detector." Time is the greatest lie detector. We know that the media has been pushing this book, Fire and Fury, before the release. It was literally being pushed and reported on, saying that this is the book from an insider in the White House. This is the book that will topple the Trump presidency. And there were many claims, bizarre claims, that came out of this book. There's so many of them, going as far as his diet, going to, the point that he, when I say he, I mean the president, doesn't read security briefings. He just skims it and tosses it aside. Just a lot of claims that were directed not so much at providing a accurate depiction of the president and his work ethic, his administration, the inner workings, the fabric of his administration, but it appeared to be a book that was, its main goal was to discredit and to fuel the engine of hatred for the president. Now, you guys saw the segment that I showed at the beginning of the show, and wow, I was embarrassed even watching that. I was absolutely embarrassed. Now, Michael Wolff, to be honest with you, I haven't heard too much, or I hadn't known much about him prior to his stint in the White House, trying to get an inside look at what takes place. And when this book came out, I saw on CNN, and I want you folks to know that I actually look at more CNN. That's probably the news network that I look at, mainstream news that I look at on a regular basis. Not so much to obtain information or credible information, but in a way, I watch it for entertainment. I'm being completely honest with you. So I saw on CNN, on MSNBC, Fire and Fury, Michael Wolff was getting so much press time, and they're really pushing for sales on this book. Even, what was that? Was that the Grammys? That award show where they had all those celebrities reading from Fire and Fury. They were reading, and they were, they had Cardi B. They had, did they have John Legend? But at the end of the day, they had Hillary Clinton. She was the final clip, and it was pretty much like a casting skit that they were doing. And they had Fire and Fury. You can see that the mainstream media, Hollywood, liberals, left, they were pushing this book. And it was hilarious. And it was so satisfying to see that this man, Michael Wolff, he actually had to walk out of an interview when he was pressed, when his credibility was tested yet again. And that's why I say time is the best lie detector. Well, I guess truth is one of the best lie detectors, because lies are pretty much anathema to truth. But it was very, very funny to see the downfall of this liar who put forth salacious and just grossly inaccurate claims of the presidency and what the White House. You can just tell that he was an operative, looking for a way to benefit from the failure and the falling and the toppling of the Trump administration. So another one bites the dust. The next thing I want to talk to you folks about, the shooting, the Broward County shooting. There are new revelations coming out in regards to the police response. And I want to bring something to our attention right now, folks. I think that it's interesting that immediately after this shooting, it was the call to end the selling and ownership of assault rifles. Without even observing and investigating what took place, the steps taken, the procedures from a law enforcement standpoint, how he obtained the firearm, if he was ever, previous police calls to this guy's house, if he had mental illness. Before all of that was considered, the words uttered were, take the guns away, ban guns, ban assault rifles. And it just seems that the more that we investigate, and this also goes towards my point in my article, that emotion is a response. It's not a lawmaker. It's important, but it shouldn't be the stimulator for legislative change. It can be consulted and acknowledged, but knee-jerk reaction changes in law and policies are not the way that a nation should be governed. And what we've seen is that the police officers that responded, even before they responded, there was a liaison officer, a school resource officer for that school and assigned to that school that did not enter the school. There were police officers that responded to this shooting, but they did not enter while the shooting was taking place. Now, folks, I'm familiar with police training on rapid intervention. It's called rapid intervention training. Keyword rapid. Now, if you have time, if there's no exigency, If there's no loss of life, if you have time, just say it's a lone gunman in a room with a handgun, no one else is in danger but him, and possibly police officers who will make contact with this guy. If you have time, then there's no need to rush. But when you are a police officer, you are sworn that if there's life being threatened, you are to be that defense. And rapid intervention means that you rapidly intervene when there is an active shooter, when there are bullets flying. You need to get into the school with a 4-man element at most. If it comes down to it and you're the only officer on scene, it is your duty, your sworn duty, to get in there and to stop the threat. And so what we're seeing now with these revelations of how police officers stood by while the shooting was transpiring, this is complete negligence. And then you have Sheriff Scott Israel, who refuses to take any accountability or responsibility for his men. He said, I'm not responsible. He said, I gave them the gun. I gave them the badge. I gave them the training. What they do is on them. And I can do a whole episode on what leadership and what good leadership is. And that, folks, is not good leadership. And they actually asked one of the students, I believe his name is David Hogg, one of the students that have been at the forefront of this anti-gun movement. And he said, one thing that he said, I believe it was on MSNBC, he said, I don't hold the police accountable. He said, you know, they're humans too. And you have to understand, they have Glock pistols and they're going in against a guy with an AR-15. Well, Mr. David, police officers are equipped with capable weaponry, such as assault rifles. And even if you have a baton in your hand, when you've sworn that duty, you are not called to stand by. You are called to be the vanguard, the tip of the spear, to go in and to preserve life. That is part of your sworn duty. And so I don't know what training Broward County officers received. But when there's a gunman in a school killing innocent, unarmed children, it is the duty of the police officer to get in there and get the job done. And this is what's so funny and ironic about this whole situation. Sheriff Scott Israel, he's calling to get rid of the guns. He's calling for, and not only him, the Democrats, they're calling for you to give in your guns, allow police officers to respond and save you. Yet in this instance, we see that these officers were incapable. How insane is it for these individuals to say, give us your guns, we'll defend you? Especially in a circumstance like this where they completely drop the ball in defending these kids. For what reason, we don't know. This is why it's important for civilians to be able to be armed so that they can defend themselves. There is a place for law enforcement, but I believe total reliance on law enforcement could leave you dead. That's all the time we have today, folks. Remember that time is one of the greatest lie detectors. Make it your goal, folks, to be objective. Have a good night.